This program is brought to you by Emory University.
In previous generations, when we talked about the good life, it was about the conditions and circumstances that might lead to a good life. I think that this discussion we're now having about happiness is about an inner orientation that can make life good in and through many kinds of circumstances and conditions.
The consumer society is constantly tempting us all the time to spend money we don't have, to buy things we don't need for the sake of a happiness that won't last. In fact, the consumer society, by constantly making us aware of what we don't have, instead of making us thankful for what we do have, has turned out to be the most efficient system yet devised for the manufacture and distribution of unhappiness. If I have a certain amount of money and I give some of it to you, I have less. If I have a certain amount of power and I give it to you, I have less power. But if I have a certain amount of love or friendship or trust and I give it to you, I don't have less, I have more.
It's a great joy to see you again, because your presence itself is happiness. To discuss happiness is one thing. The environmental crisis is due to this substitution, really. It's to do, of course, to a false science of nature and all of those things, but also to a consumerist philosophy which believes that happiness is to have, is to want more and more. Once he was asked of a great Sufi master from Khorasan, "What do you want?" He said, "I want not to want."
When we face some sort of sad thing, if you look very closely, it looks unbearable. Look from distance, it's not that much sorrow, unbearable. One thing. Then another thing, as one Buddhist master, 8th century, mentioned, when we face some problem, analyze the problem, situation. If the situation can overcome eventually, then no need worry, make effort. If there is no way to overcome that, then no use much sort of sadness, much worry.
There are practices that each of us participates in that are about simple awareness of God's presence in every breath, in every moment, in every encounter, in every challenge. It's that awareness and attending that is, I think, so significant.
It is true that if you read the Jewish literature and you read Jewish history, happiness is not the first word that comes to mind. We do degrees in misery, postgraduate angst, and advanced guilt. And we do all this stuff, you know. And yet somehow or other, when all of that is at an end, we get together and we celebrate.
By emphasizing the rights of man to happiness, nothing is said about the responsibilities of man. And many American generations have sort of expected the governments to provide for them help to exercise their rights, but never really the responsibilities very much, unless people have had individual conscience taught in churches and synagogues.
When we see it primarily as a right, it is so individually focused that at least many Americans lose the perspective of the larger whole. Right to pursue happiness on behalf of society, on behalf of all creation.
One interpretation of jihad, not only sort of because of the attack on other, but real meaning is combat or attack your own wrongdoing or negativities.
So the greater jihad, the bigger jihad is to combat your own negative forces within you.
Oh.
Yes, yes.
So in that sense, the whole Buddhist practice is practice of jihad.
That's right. Exactly, absolutely.
If the Israelites had continued to hate their enemies, Moses would have taken the Israelites out of Egypt, but he would not have taken Egypt out of the Israelites. They would be slaves to their past, slaves to their feeling of pain and injustice and grievance. This is the line he taught them, and the line we have to repeat day after day in this difficult and dangerous 21st century. You have to let go of hate if you want to be free.
Simply vilification, that I have all the monopoly on compassion, you don't have any of it, you're just brute force or so forth, that's not going to solve any problem at all. And we need to, that itself, to understand that the other can also be compassionate, is a form of compassion. If you're a follower of Christ or of the Prophet of Islam, anybody, you must exercise that. No Muslim has a right to say that a Christian does not have compassion because somebody dropped a bomb on his brother's head last night, and vice versa. And this is a very important issue we're stuck on, especially in what's called the Middle East today.
And Jacob says something very profound to the angel. He says, I will not let you go until you bless me. And that is how I feel about suffering. When my late father died, now I'm in mourning for my late mother, that sense of grief and bereavement suddenly taught me that so many things that I thought were important, external success, all of that is irrelevant. You lose a parent, you suddenly realize what a slender thing life is, how easily you can lose those you love. And then out of that comes a new simplicity. And that is why sometimes all the pain and the tears lift you to a much higher and deeper joy when you say to the bad times, I will not let you go until you bless me. Thank you.